A concrete example, poem by Reginald Arkell. Let us read this poem. My next door neighbor, Mrs. Jones, has got a garden full of stones, a greasy path, a lily pond, a rockery, and just beyond, a sundial with a strange device, which Mrs. Jones thinks rather nice. My next door neighbor, Mrs. Jones, puts little plants between the stones. They are so delicate and small, they don't mean anything at all. I can't think how she gets them in unless she plants them with a pin. My next door neighbor, Mrs. Jones, once asked me around to see her stones. We stood and talked about a flower for quite a quarter of an hour. Where is the lovely thing? I cried. You are standing on it, she replied. This is a very beautiful poem. It has rhyming words like pond beyond, device nice, Jones stones, small all, in pin, flower are, cried and replied. This is a three-stanza poem. This poem is about a woman named Mrs. Jones who loves her garden, but her garden is very different. It's full of stones, not flowers. She puts tiny plants between the stones, so small that you can hardly see them. One day she shows the poet a lovely flower, but he can't find it. She says, "You are standing on it." What a lovely poem. She sees the beauty. This poem teaches us people have different ideas about beauty. Mrs. Jones loves her stone garden, even if others don't understand it. The poem uses humor to show how people can be proud of small things. The word concrete means both real and made of stone. So, this is a clever title. Summary of the poem. The poem humorously describes Mrs. Jones, the speaker's quirky neighbor, who proudly tends to a garden made mostly of stones. Her garden includes a crazy path, a lily pond, a rockery, and a sundial with a strange design. She plants tiny, delicate flowers between the stones, which seem so small they could be planted with a pin. One day, Mrs. Jones invites the speaker to admire a special flower. Ironically, the speaker realizes they have been standing on the tiny plant the whole time. This moment adds gentle humor and highlights how beauty and pride can exist in unexpected places. What makes Mrs. Jones' garden special, even if it is mostly made of stones? Mrs. Jones' garden is special because she puts love and care into it. Even though it's made of stones, she adds tiny flowers and takes pride in how it looks. It shows her creativity and personal touch. Why do you think the poet chose to end the poem with a surprise? The poet ends with a surprise to make the poem funny and memorable. It shows how we sometimes miss what's right in front of us and adds a light-hearted twist to the story. How does the poet use humor to make the poem enjoyable and meaningful? Give examples. The poet uses gentle humor through exaggeration and surprise. For example, saying the flowers were planted with a pin makes readers imagine how tiny they must be. The ending, where the poet realizes they have been standing on the flower, adds a funny twist. This humor makes the poem enjoyable while also teaching us to appreciate small things and respect others' pride in their work. What does the speaker's realization at the end of the poem tell us about how people notice or overlook things? The speaker's realization that he was standing on the flower he came to admire is ironic and humorous. It shows that people often overlook small but meaningful things, especially when they are focused on something grand or impressive. The poem reminds us to pay attention to details and not to judge something's value by its size or appearance. What does this poem teach us about noticing small things or respecting others' choices? The poem teaches us to appreciate small things that others care about. Even if something seems strange or different, it can be meaningful to someone. We should respect people's choices and notice the beauty in little details. Why does the poet describe Mrs. Jones' garden as being made mostly of stones? What does this reveal about her personality? Mrs. Jones' garden is made mostly of stones, which shows her unique taste and pride in her own style. Instead of following traditional gardening methods, she chooses to decorate with rocks, a sundial, and tiny flowers. This reveals that she is creative and values personal expression. Her garden may seem strange to others, but it brings her joy and reflects her individuality. What lesson can we learn from Mrs. Jones' pride in her garden, even though it's not perfect or traditional? Mrs. Jones' pride in her garden teaches us that joy comes from personal expression, not from meeting others' expectations. Even though her garden is made of stones and tiny flowers, she loves it and finds beauty in it. The poem encourages us to respect people's choices and to find happiness in the things that matter to us, even if they seem small or unusual. Figures of speech used in this poem: imagery, a crazy path, a lily pond, a rockery. Imagery helps readers picture the garden clearly. The poet uses descriptive words to create a mental image of the unusual layout, making the scene feel real and whimsical. Figure of speech used in this poem: irony. The speaker is invited to admire a flower only to realize they have been standing on it. This is situational irony. What happens is the opposite of what is expected. It adds humor and shows how people sometimes miss what's right in front of them. Figures of speech: hyperbole, planted with a pin. This exaggeration emphasizes how tiny the flowers are. It's not literal, but it makes the image funny and memorable. Figures of speech: alliteration. Examples: planted with a pin, my next door neighbor. The repetition of the P and N sound adds rhythm to the poem. Figures of speech: personification. The sundial has a strange device that Mrs. Jones finds rather nice. The sundial is described as having personality or charm, which gives life to an object and reflects Mrs. Jones' affection for her garden. Thank you for reading this poem. I have explained the question answers and figures of speech of this poem. Do let me know if you need any more answers from this poem. Thanks again.